Hey, this is Roy Cruz, your Life Applications Officer. Want to do another video. I want to talk to black people real briefly right here. Um, I went to Dollar Tree earlier today. Well, just a little bit ago. And I talked to this black lady out there that works for the police. Out there. And I like to stop and talk to her whenever I'm going to one of the stores up here on my street. Or I'm going to catch a bus, and she's always out there. And I walked by and I was teasing her. I said, "Man, you on a break already? You didn't do nothing." And we got to talking, and we got to talking about everything from Korea to Donald Trump, from Donald Trump to white supremacy. So today, we'll call anybody a white supremacist that is white that we don't agree with, or that we think is is a little bit too bold or too strong, is not careful with his words, just comes right out and let it out. He didn't say nothing about black people. He didn't say the N word. He didn't start talking about, taking anything away from black folks last I checked. But yet, he is considered a white supremacist. And he's considered right now to be the number one man out of all the presidents that is pushing white supremacy. I have a few questions for black people, and then I'm going to go right to the Bible when I get done with it. Well, in the midst of it, I'm going to go right to the Bible and tell you what I think the Bible says about supremacy. What the Bible thinks about supremacy. And I got a question to ask black folks. Got a few, actually. First one is, how come only black people quote the phrase white supremacy? Are white people only racists of black people? Because they already put black people through enough and took them as slaves? So even after all this time, you got people coming over here from India, many people coming over here from India and other parts of the Middle East that are darker than most black people I know. Can't speak a word of clear English. Okay? Barely say good morning to anybody. Say hello. Good morning. How are you today, sir? How are you today, ma'am? Let me get the door for you, ma'am. These people don't do this. The Asians are another one that come over here and they come to our country and they keep it to themselves. They don't touch anything. Some of these Asian women are very quick to marry white men. These Asian women are very quick to marry white men when they want to stay in this country and they want to make sure that their status here in this country is safe. They'll hook up with a white man and marry a white man if they don't bring family over here with them. But on an everyday typical basis, I'm here in the middle of Pittsburgh. I'm watching these kids, Asians and Arabs, Indians, grow up in this country going to college. They don't speak. They don't say hello. And if you don't understand their accent because they can't speak a clear word of English, they'll get pissed off at you and think that you're being just a piece of ghetto trash because you're not able to understand their jibber jabber. Lady pulled up to me, and only because I was wearing a uniform, pulled up to me in my garage. She had to go through me to get out. In one of my garages. So she wanted to know directions how to get somewhere. I tried to tell her. I don't think she understood English any better than she can speak it. Then she got a little upset with me. She's like, okay. I asked her, do you understand? Do you need me to explain it some more? I mean, do you understand? Or do you got it? Do you understand? Okay. She just wanted to go. She just wanted to get out of my face. First question. Why are black folks the only one that quote the term white supremacy? Who else might call American white people, or the population of the white man, so to speak, white supremacy? The Indians? I met an Indian, a few Indians in my time. I met an Indian lady at my old job spot at the old AAA building. And she seemed like the nicest person I ever met. I don't think she lived on a reservation, though. I met a guy who was part of David Wilkerson's ministry. I went to a Nicky Cruz crusade here in Pittsburgh probably about less than 5 years ago. And there was an Indian man up there, a Native American, playing the saxophone for the worship team. He gave his testimony, being they needed some time in between songs and setting up for different groups to sing. He gave his testimony. Obviously, he didn't live on a reservation either. And obviously, he went to a predominantly white church. And obviously, he was a born-again Christian who forgave the white man for anything that he was taught that the white man did something wrong to him. But how come Arabs don't come over here? I mean, Arabs have been living here since I was a baby. How come they don't claim white supremacy? How come I don't hear Asian people claiming white supremacy? I mean, I've never... Now, when I was in Job Corps, I take that back, because when I was in Job Corps, I met some Vietnamese people. Vietnamese people. A lot of them hate white folks because of the U.S. military being sanctioned in Vietnam. The lady I talked to today seemed to think that America goes around picking fights with people. I beg to differ. We are the last people to pick fights with people. And this whole thing about Donald Trump in Korea right now, I believe this guy started the mess. Even Barack Obama was, gnashing his teeth at this guy. Okay? No president that's ever no U.S. president that's ever been president has ever sided or agreed with Netanyahu, or whatever his name is. Whatever his name is, that knucklehead in Korea, this guy that wants to just kill a country so bad, he just wants to set one of the missiles off. He wants to see blood, and he wants to see, I believe, before it's all over, he is going to take over one of those nations in close proximity to him with a missile. Okay? And it's going to be an Asian country first before he starts tampering with the U.S. or other or Russia or anything like that. It's going to be an Asian nation first. But this woman felt that Donald Trump is picking fights, and he you know what I'm saying, like he like we have U.S. military in almost every country, sanctioned in every country, because she claims that the U.S. wants to control everything. I think if the U.S. wanted to control everything, they could have did it a long time ago. But she says the U.S. just wants to control everything. And when she says U.S., she's not talking about all of us. I want to control some things. I'm with them. Okay? I want to control, I don't want to control the world, but I do want to control anything that comes in or out of this country. I want to control whether or not other religions can come into this country and attack the religions that already exist here for centuries and centuries. I want to control how people behave and act when they come into this country. When they come into this country, I don't think they get to be about Asia, because this ain't Asia. This is not a continent. This is not the continent of Asia. This is not Saudi Arabia. So don't come over here acting like everybody's supposed to turn around and be Saudi Arabian. We're supposed to be big Saudi or big China or big Japan. No. We're America. You're going to be like us. We don't be like you, you be like us. We're the bigger country. I'm just going by natural human behavior here. In logical, moral, common sense. Logical, moral, common sense. We're the bigger country. We're 50 states. We got a little bit of everybody and a lot of everybody in this country. We've overcome, in my opinion, racism. Because if we didn't overcome racism, none of these people would get in here. I don't care who's in office. There would be no way to protect any of these foreigners in this country if these white people didn't open their arms and let them in here. It's not good enough for the President of the United States to just make rules for everybody. He'd be outnumbered. He has to get everybody to agree with him. And I'm one that agrees with people like Donald Trump. You say, well, Donald Trump's a racist and blah, blah, blah. Show me a president that ever was in the White House, other than Barack Obama, that 100,000 black people didn't call racist. Okay? Now that Barack Obama got in office, when he walked out, then some of these black folks, they want to quote to me some of their good quotes that Jimmy Carter said or some of these other white presidents said. But I remember back in the day, Jimmy Carter, Reagan, the Bushes, Bill Clinton, every president that's ever been in office since I've been on this planet, except Barack Obama, because he was black, if he was black, okay, was considered a racist. But all of a sudden, oh, we got Donald Trump now, so he's a bigger racist than them. Barack Obama might be the only president, or he's the second president, the only president out of two that went for a second term. I guess they wanted him to go for an 8th term. Okay? Because he was black. He needs to go for an 8th term. He needs to stay in office forever. This, to me, that's kind of immature and silly on black folks. Because the President of the United States is the President of the United States. He's not the President of Black America. Whatever he does for black people, white folks have a right to that same thing. If he helps welfare, then white folks get to collect more welfare. If he increases education, white folks get to increase in education, right along with blacks and Latinos and everybody else. But you say that white supremacy, but I only hear black people talking about white supremacy all the time. How come Arabs don't never say white supremacy? Asians, white supremacy. The only people that I might hear behind the scenes, they don't say it in public like black folks do. They're not that ignorant. You know, this woman went to talk about white supremacy while 100 white people just walk right by us. But usually the Native Americans and the Spanish don't say white supremacy in public. But it's funny how only those that are low income, that live away from the general population, other than blacks, are the only ones that might say something and agree with blacks that it's about white supremacy. Indians on reservations, and some of the nonsense that goes on reservations. I remember a friend of mine who used to go to reservations to preach the gospel. He told me there's all kinds of nonsense that goes on reservations. Domestic violence, incest, okay, witchcraft. All right, theft, gypsies. Gypsies are thieves that steal things. And one of the cultures that has gypsies is Native Americans. Okay. And these people will get up there and talk about the white man this and the white man that and the white man that. But you get off that reservation, you don't talk like that no more. When you go to live in the general population and you go to learning how to work a normal job. So my first question is, why is it really that white supremacy is only a thing of black folks? You're telling me that white people love Arabs, knowing what's going on with radical Islamic terror? You're telling me that white folks like Arabs more than they like blacks? You're telling me that white folks like terrorists like ISIS more than they like blacks? You're telling me that white folks love Asians more than they like blacks? Let me tell you a little secret. I've never left the general population. I've never been in a ghetto for more than a few years before I went. And, you know, I lived where I did live as a youngster. I went through middle school and high school in the ghetto. I lived in a ghetto. Thank God my mama, because I'm hearing impaired, my mama was able to get me to go to, or supply me with, a school that was outside the ghetto. Matter of fact, it was closer to where I live now. I graduated from John Abershire High School, which is probably about, 8 miles from here. It ain't no ghetto. It's beautiful up there. And I became friends with this was way back in my high school days. No, middle school days, actually. I became friends Well, yeah, high school days. I became friends with people that lived in the neighborhood. Sometimes after school, just like when I was a kid, sometimes after school, I had to call home all the way to Homewood, Pittsburgh. All the way, well, at that time I lived up in Larimer area of Pittsburgh, wasn't Homewood. It was right above Homewood. I lived across the bridge in Larimer, in the Larimer area. I had to call home, tell my mama, my white friends up here to go to school. Their parents want to know if I could come over and hang out with them for a while. They will drive me home. 20 miles. They're going to drive me home. They're going to drive me back home to the ghetto. We're talking 14 to 20 miles. I'm thinking of Westmoreland County. It's 14. Actually, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm thinking it ain't that. No, it's not. It's not 20 miles. It's about 15, 14 or 15 miles from here to yeah, about 14 miles. If you're going the other direction to where I just moved from, you're talking about 20 miles. But it was about 14. Um, but I grew up in that school. I went to high school at a predominantly white high school. But the majority of the football team was black. There's only two white guys on the football team. And I forget if we had a basketball team or not. I think we did. And if we did, most of them were black. School was probably the highest population in school was white. Blacks were next though. Blacks were next. And where did these blacks come from? They came from the ghettos on the other side of the mountain. Because up there where my school was, there's a mountain that divides one part of one neighborhood from another. The blacks were coming from, trying to think of the areas down by there. They were coming from the St. Clair area, I think. The projects. Whereas the white folks were on the other side of the mountain in the Potomac area. That was kind of suburban country. But we went to school together. We all got along. Now you go over to Pittsburgh where the school was predominantly black. And there's only so many whites to go to that school. Black folks are very violent. Now at Brashear we had blacks coming in second next to whites. Then we had some Asians. They were probably the smallest number, and we had Latinos, Spanish people. And they were probably coming in number 3 before the Asians. Okay. And we had some, Indians in there. We had some, Muslims going to our school and stuff like that. They might have been smaller than the Asians. Their number, but we all got along. But I went to Reisenstein Middle School here in Pittsburgh. We didn't all get along. I was always being pulled into a fight. Somebody was always doing something criminal to me. Just walk in my art class, okay, and just hit me upside my head with a sculpture. I mean, just dump clay on me and get it all over me. Okay. Get expelled from school to come back and do it again. What did I do to that guy to make him attack another black brother? I'm just sitting in there doing my artwork. I'm sitting in there with the teacher. He come out of nowhere. Just come in there and got smart with me. I says, what are you talking about? Next thing you know, I'm covered in clay. Why? What did I do to him? I didn't even know the guy. Didn't know his name. Didn't know his reputation. Didn't know nothing about him. I just happened to be sitting there. He was in some kind of mood and he came in there and did that. Did white supremacy make him do that? The art teacher was white. The art teacher had to call security to come in here and get him off me. But did white supremacy make that boy go in there and hit me with a pile of? Thank God it was somewhat wet, because if it had been completely dry, I'd have had stitches. Did white supremacy make him do that? Reisenstein Middle School. Anybody black watching this video that knows Pittsburgh knows about Reisenstein Middle School. I went to Crescent Elementary before I went to Reisenstein. This is when me and my mom first left our little haven in McKeesport, back in the time when McKeesport was booming with culture and business. And a kid tried to throw me off a cliff. I already told you that story. White supremacy make them do that? There were no white people around. You telling me that white supremacy makes black kids attack other black kids? But Asians and Arabs and Indians, people from India, don't come over here and complain about white supremacy. White supremacy is only a thing of black people. And I noticed that when people come over here from other countries, they come over here to make money because they can't make it over there in their country, because their country is what? A ghetto. At least for them, their country is a ghetto. People feel that if they're going, me and this lady was talking about this too, that if people feel that they're going to live their life and they're only going to make a certain amount of money and not be able to be rich, but just make a certain amount of money, maybe enough to put their kids through school and stuff like that, they rather do this in this country than in theirs. See? They rather do that in this country. A lot of Asians and a lot of Arabs, Indians, come to this country because they rather live naturally and even low income in this country than in their own. And me and this woman talked about Africa. And she said it all depends on what part of Africa you come from. And a lot of Africans come over here. They don't complain about white supremacy, but they hate blacks more than a lot of white people supposedly hate blacks. A lot of these Africans that come over to this country. And I've told this woman how, I've met Africans that won't even share a conversation with me. And when they do, it's like brief and quick. Brief and quick. And over with. But when other people from other countries come over to this country, they come over here to make money. And if they come over here and they make a certain amount of money, not only do they come over here and make a certain amount of money, but they get treated differently by everybody, starting with whites. And they feel the same way. They have an attitude towards blacks. Matter of fact, everybody has an attitude. That's another thing. Everybody has an attitude towards blacks, not just white people. Asians have an attitude towards blacks. I go to the bus stop. Okay? And I give up my seat, in one of them booths. I give up my seat for an Asian lady. She won't take it. And if I'm sitting there or standing there, she'll make sure, and it's not just the women, it's the men too. They'll make sure there's about a 20-foot stretch between me and them until that bus comes. But if a white person was sitting there, she'd have no problem sitting right now next to him or being 5 feet from his knee. Now, are white people teaching these Asians to hate blacks? Or are white people teaching Arabs how to hate blacks? Or are they watching the news? Are they in their country watching us on TV killing our own people, shooting our own children, and shooting our own women while she's holding a baby? Or are they just watching black on black crime on television? Why are they more supposedly racist towards us in this day and time than white folks are? And I tell you what, I can go anywhere. You want to see me getting mad about racism? It'll probably be racism coming from an Asian dude. I went to a Chinese restaurant in my mall, okay, that was put there out of my tax dollars in my neighborhood. And we all, whites, blacks, and whoever else lived in Westmoreland County, was excited about that mall. And after moving here to Pittsburgh, I went to my home place. Westmoreland County. I went up to Pittsburgh Mills, and there was the mall there, and there was an Asian dude in there, a new Asian dude, working one of my favorite Chinese places to eat at, working at the famous Wok. No, the Chinese Connection. And I went up there to get food, and he was yelling at me. And I mean, they're sitting there waiting for somebody to give them business. But then when a black person goes up there and gives them business, they start yelling and treating you like you are offending them by trying to buy. They're sitting there getting tired of waiting for somebody to come buy some food. And you see them sitting there, there's no line, so you figure, hey, I'll just go over here and get some Chinese. And you get over there. And they immediately are like, what kind of meat do you want? You want vegetable with that? Soda or soup? They can't look you in the face and they're like this. Eyes rolling up in their head, and And then you go up there and you say, and they're like, what do you want now? I just wanted a napkin. You have a napkin? Over there! Over there! Over there! Never had that kind of service from white people. Never. Even back in the days when there's times I went into white neighborhoods. Now, don't get me wrong. There were times when I went into predominantly white neighborhoods. I'm just, I'm in the car. I'm passing through. Stop at a supermarket to go in there because I don't have time to go at a supermarket at home. I'm going to be stuck behind traffic, so I might as well stop at this little white neighborhood right here and go in their little local supermarket, one of the little private supermarkets or whatever. And I go in there. The cop that was standing outside decides to come inside. He follows me inside. And then I get in line. and I get all these stares. And I'm not offended because I can look around me and tell y'all don't see very many black people every day. So I'm like, I'm not offended at all. It's just when I go through the checkout and I have to ask the lady, can you double that bag or whatever? Yeah. Like a rebellious child, like I'm her daddy and I'm telling her how to, I'm telling her she can't go to the dance or something. You know, I mean, yeah. I'm not saying I don't go through racism. I go through racism a lot, but I don't call it white supremacy. I call it still going through a certain amount of racism. It will always be with us. But if white supremacy was a stature, or a statue, I should say, if it was, it might be a concept, but it's not a statue in any way. Because if it was a statue, it would affect everybody, not just black folks. It would affect you whether you had money or not. But see, if money can debunk white supremacy, then white supremacy does not really have the strong statue that black people think it has. Because you wouldn't be able to break it down with money. You look at where does Tyler Perry live? He don't live in the ghetto. And this lady agreed with me. You make a certain amount of money, white people treat you like you white. Where does Tyler Perry live? Tyler Perry wasn't there in Ferguson at the riots. Tyler Perry doesn't go out and get arrested. Okay? For standing in front of a local store in the ghetto. Okay? Tyler Perry is not on TV, okay, getting shot while running from the cops or anything like that. Neither is Chris Rock or, even Eddie Griffin. And when they joke around with you about white supremacy, they don't believe in white supremacy, because if they really believed in white supremacy, their butts still be living in the ghetto. They made sure they took their money and they went to live next door to white folks, because they know how you are, even though they accept your money for coming to their show. You're a fan. They need you to be a fan because of the type of comedy that they do. But initially, they're not a part of you, because money separates us. Not supremacy, not racism, money. Money, two things that separate us is religion and money. Religion and money. I know people that are separated from their families because of money. Separated from their family, and I'm one of them, because of where my faith lies. My faith is in Christ Jesus. You got a problem with that, I'll see you on the other side. I ain't got time to argue with you, because that's how confident I am about it. But it's money and religion that separates us. It's not color. Because like I said, if a black man makes even a quarter of what Donald Trump makes, don't nobody see the color of your skin anymore. Okay? If Arabs come over here and get education and get good jobs, don't nobody look down on them for being Arabs, even though the Islamic State is all about taking it over the world with violence and raping the planet in order to put their culture and their religion above everything and everybody else around the whole world. But don't nobody look down on them for that, because of this. I used to live in New Kensington not too long ago. And as a housekeeping supervisor for the YMCA, I was asked to do other things like do some side work like moving and stuff like that. And I went to go move some people with the guy from the YMCA. I was moving a TV one time, a big screen TV one time. We put it on a truck. We rented a truck, put the big screen TV in this moving truck for this lady and drove it to her neighborhood. Now I knew that she was Indian, from India. I did not know that when we got to her neighborhood that I was going to find out that there were Arabs, Indians, and Asians living in that same neighborhood. Okay, and while we was moving a big screen TV into her house, there was another moving company moving furniture in this Asian lady's house 2 doors down. No black folks live in this neighborhood. Just Asians, Arabs, Indians, and whites. There's just as many foreigners in that neighborhood as there is white. You want to tell yourself that it's all about white supremacy, you go right ahead. To me, that doesn't help me to call everything white supremacy, because to me, if everything is white supremacist, why aren't white people showing their supremacy over me? I don't see white people showing their supremacy over me. I go to an Arab or a Palestinian business. I see Palestinians working for Palestinians, Arabs working for Arabs, Asians working for Asians. But when I go to a white business, I see a lot of blacks getting jobs because of white people. I see whites and blacks and everybody working for white people. But I see, as white people call it, multiculturalism, if that's the truth, if that's true, and it's starting to look like it is. These Arabs they are hiring Arabs. They are paying their own family and associates of their own culture and race to work for them. Same thing with Asians. Asians will work a white business, work for a white man, and then open up their own business and hire more Asians than anybody else. White supremacy might be a thing of the past, but I can't really agree with you that it's a thing of today. Neither can I agree with you that it might be having anything to do with black people. White supremacy, I'm not sure it exists. What does exist is money and power. Money is power. And that's always been. It's religion and money that separate us, not so much our race or our power of supremacy, so to speak. Supremacy is an attitude. It's a form of conduct. But it's really not a statue of power or foundation. Thanks for watching. I might do a part 2 of this video because I should have wrote down what I wanted to say. I had a bunch of questions, and I still do. I'll do that in another video. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. I will talk to you soon. God bless you.